Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining this afternoon and today. And I'm going to be kind of turning my head and looking at my other screen. So I've got this other screen going and I wanted to kind of be able to talk to you. Here's my camera, here's my screen. So we'll see how it goes. But I'm Esther French. I am at SkyCTC, which is South Central Kentucky Community and Technical College. And basically this is a topic that I've been very interested in, and I'm just playing around with it. I'm going to share with you some things that I've been thinking about and playing with recently, a couple last month or 2 months or so, and where I am in the process. And so we'll see where we can get today here. So just as an overview for the session, I'm going to explain why this might even be an issue. I know there's different feelings about, are we turning academia into, a business? We all know it's a business. So we'll just skip that part. But yeah, doing a little bit of the why. What am I talking about? Creating what is this? What I'm talking about today? How you might do that? How you might create some ways to communicate the importance of information literacy for employability. Maybe some thoughts like, but what about? Or so. Um, I'll also give you some examples of stuff that I've created using some AI tools, and whether or not you use those tools or not, you can still do this activity, right? You can write it up yourself. We'll have some discussion at the end and sort of just see where we can go from there. So let's get started with kind of the why. So I feel like just in my experience as a librarian, instructional librarian here at SkyCTC, and also in some other libraries here and there in my experience, being able to communicate, and as many of you have mentioned today, being able to sort of explain the relevancy of librarians and information literacy and what we do, especially instructional librarians, using the same vocabulary, right? We have the ACRL framework, or we have the AASL for K through 12. How do we explain that to just anyone, somebody who's not in the field, even those, as Amanda pointed out, even the students who are working in a library may not really clearly understand what's going on there. Being transparent about that, being practical about it. Okay, so this is what this means. Maybe for you, in the world, in the real world, so to speak, right? We know that information literacy is an essential employability skill. We know that. It's we can probably list and count and talk and all day about it, but can we actually use the terminology that everyone's using? So, good example of this that I kind of bumped into these last few years is working with some faculty who were on a CPE, Kentucky Graduate Essential Skills Work Group. So the CPE is Council for Post-Secondary Education, and it kind of oversees all of our nice little sort of suggestions, guidelines, professional guidelines, things like that for all kinds of things higher ed for everyone across the state. And one thing they've been working on is this idea of when a student graduates, are they employable? Okay, because we're seeing a lot of pushback with things, and of course, this has always been the case. What good is an education? What good is higher education? What are you doing with these people? And why can't they do anything when they get out of, when they get their degree? So this Kentucky Graduate Essential Skills, I've got a link to it here. I'm going to pull this up. It is very basic stuff here. This is nothing new. Okay, it's just the way they're wording it. So, for instance, you go through, if you haven't heard of this yet, there's different work groups that have been from different colleges around the entire state. They've been working on this, and they've been figuring out how to sort of make sure that both at the classroom and the sort of, it can even drill down to assignment level. But let's say the classroom, the class, the program levels, that we're getting these skills in wherever they should be, and also helping these poor faculty explain how what they're already doing is this, right, to a degree. So for instance, you have 10 skills and the last skill is use information for decision making. That's where our little slot is. We've got some other slots, obviously, if you look through these, think critically, things like that. But that's the one that we're kind of assigned to. So librarians may or may not have been involved in this. This is what I'm saying. This, if you have been, great. Maybe you want to put that in chat. But 9 times out of 10, I have not seen a lot of involvement with professional librarians with this piece, right? So that's just kind of a example of why being able to communicate about information literacy, what you're doing, why are you coming to the classroom, why are students coming to you, what is it all about, can be very handy, because you're going to be communicating with the language, you're going to be speaking and sort of in the group, right? And if I could say, like, putting your foot in the door, right? I'm going to put my foot in the door, I'm going to hold like Amanda was saying with her research. I'm going to put my foot in the door, I'm going to hold there. And so kind of just, how do we do that, right? And I'm just kind of asking myself this, and I know a lot of you have done some work with this, so it's nothing new for you. But what I would like to do is, as I was kind of thinking about, how would I do this? How would I explain this? I'm what basically I would call a generalist. Okay, because I have no subject specialty. I serve all subject areas, of course, being at a community technical college, and some fields I'm more familiar with than others. So how do I do this? Well, one thing that I thought would be useful, and that I've used before in other situations, is maybe using something from ONET. So I'm going to talk about that in a sec. But once creating kind of a elevator pitch, kind of a tool, let's say, that you can use to communicate, taking the language from, say, like an occupation, combining it with our framework or whatever piece or whatever document we're using to explain information literacy, right? Whether you're ASL or ACRL or whatever document, like I said, you're using, and creating these elevator pitches. So what would you use these elevator pitches for? What would you use this information for? Maybe you would use it in a marketing piece that you're sending in. Maybe you would even use it in training for either faculty or your staff, or your student workers, anyone in your department. I'm getting ready to try to kind of put a little blurb on each of my LibGuides. So if I have a air conditioning LibGuide, right, I might put a little blurb in there about how information literacy connects to what they're going to be doing in the workplace when they get there. Maybe a little box, just kind of find a spot, maybe do a little kind of short blurb. And then I can kind of point to that if I'm working with a student, right? It's a conversation piece, basically. Um, Maybe it's something I put in an email to somebody, right? Could you tell me what it is sure, during instruction sessions, by golly, I'm going to be putting it in there. It's like, trying to be transparent, trying to be show the relevancy of this stuff. Maybe I'm going to even say, okay, when you get out there, guys, how are you going to explain this? What we're doing right now. Well, and why are we doing this right now? I get to go to program reviews. We have extensive program reviews at our college. I'm not sure how the other KCTCS colleges do it, but what we've started as librarians, kind of going to those program reviews, because we aren't specialists. So we go to the program reviews, we see what the programs are doing, we see how they're meeting their standards. They have a little, it's a little conversation piece. They see we're interested. And I would like to offer them this little blurb, let's say, so they can put it in their slides to show how they're making that connection for the essential skills for whatever it is that they're working on, right? And then, we do we sign up to help with mock interviews. Students, business students are doing mock interviews. They're always wanting faculty to help with that, to kind of give a true sort of more authentic environment for that. So we always sign up for that. We of course volunteer for everything, right? But during mock interviews or as a part of those mock interviews, helping those students understand that they can take a piece that they've done in class or a piece that they've even experienced in library instruction and use it to address concerns their employer might have about decision making and information seeking behavior, things like that. So lots of stuff you can do with these. So what are we going to use here? We're going to use, as I mentioned, ONET, right? That was in the title. And I don't know how many of you, I'm sure you're aware of ONET. I'm not sure how much you've used it in, say, library instruction. I use it quite a bit in library instruction for a couple of reasons. I do a lot of instruction for first year experience, and they have a career exploration project. So this feeds right into their project and reinforces some of the information seeking skills, behaviors, tools that we've already looked at. Because it is a database of occupations, right? So they're able to use search. They're able to choose terminology, adjust their terminology, choose sort of either a browsing feature or a search feature. They lots of different things you can do with this tool. Just as a background, it does have like over 900 US occupations listed, and it's kind of like their official occupation that also feeds into, say, Occupational Outlook Handbook, and a lot of other of those Department of Labor tools, okay? But it's very visually streamlined. There's not a lot of commercialized, there's no like sort of commercials going on here. The interface is real basic. So for readers and stuff like that, it's very handy. Created for the general public. So the language, like we talked about language, right? Gonna be your basic language, all right? Skills, abilities, and activities. It's going to list a lot of those things that go with each of those occupations. So let's say you have a program that's like a culinary program, then you're going to get cook or chef, skills, abilities, and activities coming in with these descriptions. It's updated all the time by the business and industry and not by some sort of third party, right? And HR professionals. So this is what exactly the skills they're looking for, right? And so that is a nice conversation piece with students as well. It does have that precise language for each of those fields. So let's take a look at this interface here. So as you can see, we have this little search. So I thought it'd be fun to do our librarians, right? We were just talking about that. So if I was just a student, I was typing something in, I'm just like, just type what you're researching. If you're researching how to be a teacher or whatever, just put teacher in, see what comes up. It'll give you a suggestion. And here's our page, everybody. And of course, it has all these tasks. I like to go down to the worker requirements section. So this is the section I'm using for this activity today, okay? So these language, this section includes our soft skills. And I do like to kind of point out, here we've got our active listening, reading comprehension, critical thinking, and so forth, right? So all our worker requirements, right? All 13 items. And then of course our knowledge base, is coming up in that section as well. So there's tons of stuff on this page. I may not use all of it. There's different ways to use this information, but I'm specifically looking at more of those kind of soft skills, the soft skills area, okay? And then where I go from there is to take a look at the ACRL framework, of course, which is very flexible, pretty comprehensive. It's designed for discussion, right? This piece, we may think of it sort of as this sort of set in stone piece, but really it is set up for discussion, which they note on the site, and includes this. It's definitely includes this meta literacy um, aspect, and is great for that discussions about student success, learning, things like that. So it's already set up that way. So even if you're just kind of writing these up yourself and you're not using an AI tool to help you, you can do it. You can do it. You know how to do this. But so let's say I'm going to be using this. Of course, we've got the whole framework here, and it's quite extensive. But as you can see at the very top, where it's introducing the framework, suggestions for how to use it, things like that, might have some more ideas of how you could plug it in. But right now, literally, I'm just going to be using the actual website for this activity. All right, so what I'm going to be doing here. So we got ONET, we got ACRL, got all this language, may have the graduate essential skills, and it just makes your head spin. I don't know, raise your hand if your head is spinning. I mean, I think I don't have time for this. So I've got a little clock here, I've got a little staffing image, and the hamster on the wheel, right? We all have time issues, we all have staffing issues. Hard to get things done. Any other suggestions of issues why that would come up? That's why I have other, right? All of the above. So what can we do to help with this? Well, we might try using some of that lovely AI that we're learning about so much. And I don't know. I've been to so many sessions with AI, right? And I'm not suggesting you have to use AI. I just did for my task. My task was to take the language from, say, like the ONET soft skills language and the language from ACRL framework and kind of mesh them so that I could communicate about information literacy to various fields, right? Various program areas. So I thought, well, why not see if I can find a tool, because I have not used AI tools that much. I'm one of these that's like very Brooke. I'm just kind of like, I don't know if it's going to help me. It's a couple times that I've sort of played around with it. It's like, no, I don't really want that. It's not really doing what I want it to do. Now I'm just wasting my time just trying to get it to do what I want it to do. So I thought I'd try this out, and see if it was going to help me or be helpful. So one thing that I really was very careful to do was to make sure that I was checking on my institution policies and guidelines for AI. So every institution is going to have a different policy. Every institution is going to have a different guideline. I looked up some of the various colleges around the state, and some of them have like something for faculty and staff. Others have something really more focused on teaching, like what are you going to include in your syllabus or something. Others have like something about students using AI, something like that. But I really wanted to see what the policy was for the faculty or the staff person using AI for their job duties, let's say. So in this case, I think this was probably a really good use of a tool like this when I'm trying to combine this sort of complex language with this other thing and see if I can mesh them and see if it can do it in a time-saving way. Because with the 35 LibGuides I had in subject areas, I'm really not sure I have time to sort of compose, right? I might just need to edit. So that's kind of what I would caution, just to make sure that you look at what tools your institution is approving, right? And how they want you to use them. So for instance, there's a great article from EdTech, a recent article on how institutions of higher education are actually kind of using the IT is sort of saying, hey, you've already got these tools, start here. So that I thought, okay, I'll start wherever our institution has kind of approved. And this article mentions things like Copilot for Microsoft and Gemini for Google Workspace. So I know, especially some K through 12s and nonprofits, they're going to be using maybe more Google tools, that kind of thing. Maybe they have an education version. I don't know. Copilot, we've got Microsoft with Case TCS, so that's one that we are going to have access to. So I thought I would take a look at our AI guidelines for Case TCS. So I'm going to pull those up. And there, my friends, is the belly of Case TCS. That is our intranet. So our policy is actually on our intranet and does tie very closely into our existing technology policies in regards especially to FERPA, to student data, things like that. So it tells us whether we're allowed to use it and basically what tools would be preferred, basically what we need to watch for, and what the policies are. And basically, after looking through all of these policies, I discovered that yes, Copilot was recommended, and then also if we're going to be using Chat GPT, we would go in and turn off the training mode basically for Chat GPT and delete chats, that kind of thing. So it depends on what level of data, and they have instructions on what level of data you can do for each tool. So that was very handy, right? Your institution may or may not have that. Let's see, University of Kentucky had one that I thought was really kind of nice. They have that advanced kind of program initiative, let's say UK Advance, and that's like campus wide. And so they've really done a deep dive here. And, why not use their stuff, right? So they have some specific clinical guidelines, faculty guidelines, and research recommendations, and all very official looking and everything. So if you work for them, you would be using that. And then as another example, Centre College has a policy sort of pretty similar to Case TCS in, hey, this is our marketing. It's in their marketing section, legal affairs, that kind of thing. And it kind of just gives some guidelines, some things to watch out for with FERPA and that kind of thing. So again, you're going to want to look at what your institution allows you to do, right? And just kind of abide by those policies. And if anybody asks, you're like, hey, there's the policy, right? So that was helpful for me to get in there and see, okay, I'm on the right track here in my thinking, and I can use something like Copilot to do this. So then I thought, well, what could I put into this tool, AI tool, or even use for a human? Notice I have my human and my AI little robot here on the job. And so here's a little sort of example prompt I use. Now, I'm not saying this is the perfect prompt to get out a result that you can use, like an elevator pitch, but it's one that I did use and one that you can grab from me if you want to. So what you're going to want to do is you are a university librarian, or you could put in you are a K through 12 library, or a library media specialist, or whatever descriptor you want to put in there. I put in university librarian, explaining to, and then you can put the program name. You can put like business faculty, for instance, how information literacy relates to worker requirements. Now I put the worker requirements phrase in there because that is the header from ONET. Okay, that's the header of that that section that's going to talk about soft skills and knowledge. And then I just kind of repeat it, compare the worker requirements for, and then I put the specific occupation in there. So I might put librarians, or I might put chefs or whatever from ONET online. And then I use the specific URL, and I'll show you kind of what I use in just a sec. And then the ACRL framework, and then I put the URL for the framework. And that way the tool can pull from that web page. Initially, I sort of just used the text from the web page, and I was like, I'm wasting time here. Just give them the link. Yeah. And let them search out and figure out what to pull, or let the tool do it. And then I limited the length. I think about 100 words is long enough. It might even be too long, but explaining a paragraph of no longer than 100 words, right? So this seemed to work pretty well. Let me show you. Oops, sorry, guys. Just trying to blow it up here. There we go. All right. So you can see that I have some example prompts, and you can see I've put in sort of the term that I want to use. Your university librarian explaining to business faculty how information literacy relates to workplace skills for, and then I put the specific basically occupation from ONET. So if I was wanting to go back up and find an occupation for that, the specific page for that, let's see, let me just do this. So let's say I'm on the specific page for customer service representative. That's the URL that I'm going to want to grab for this prompt, okay? And so then I'm going to put it into, say, Copilot, or put it into ChatGPT, and that's really kind of how I framed this, or sort of started with this, right? And here is the specific where I'm going to stick in the specific page for customer service representative. Let me grab that here. That's what I was doing. Back over here. Too many things open. And just kind of throw it in there. So when you copy and paste this into your tool or whatever, it's going to go to that specific page, right? And here I go. I can just copy this prompt here that I've got ready to go back over to whatever tool I'm going to use. Now, this particular tool is Copilot. So I'm going to blow up here so you can see what I'm doing. Do this live. You can see my chat history, because in Copilot, it's contained within your system. So, that again was approved by my university for this level of information. And so I'm pretty comfortable just kind of leaving the chat history there. And I'm going to throw this into my instructions for the chat or Copilot, and I get a response here. And here's my response. So information literacy directly supports the workplace skills needed as described by ONET, key skills, and then it kind of lists some key skills. Customer service roles require quick, informed decision making. And then it talks about teaching students to locate, access, assess, and apply information. So all the good stuff in there, right? If I don't like what it says, like if I decide, well, this is not quite what I wanted to say, I just edit it, right? I can go in and edit myself pretty easily, but I don't have to sit here and create this whole thing from scratch, right? So it's just a little time-saving tool to kind of help communicate that. If I were to put the same thing into ChatGPT, All right, so in ChatGPT, I haven't used it much. I know some of you have used it a lot. I have used it almost zero. Okay, this is my first time really getting in there and playing with it for any particular reason. And what I did was I made sure, again, this was a tool that I was allowed to use by my institution as long as I go up into the settings. So take a look at my settings. If I go into my settings and go into data control, I can manage whether it's training or not. So if I want it to allow it to sort of save my information and train, in other words, kind of gather information, let's say, then I can turn this on. I've turned it off. So as a rule, it's off for me. And I can also delete all my chats after I'm done if I feel like, there might be some issue to do that. So I'm going to throw this into Chat GPT, the same prompt, see what it says here. And pretty similar. It likes ChatGPT, and sometimes even Copilot will pull in the actual headers for the framework, like research as inquiry. Well, you may not want to keep those. Again, we want to kind of keep it simple, right? So you might want to pull those out, when you edit or whatever. But it still gives a pretty clear connection from, say, like information literacy to the things that they're doing in this field, right? And just kind of using the framework to be consistent in wording, that kind of thing. So those are the two tools that I use, Copilot, and I'll give you an example of what it looks like when I put in something. Let's see. All right, so I did one for industrial engineering technologists. We have a engineering pathway, basically, and we have some industrial. And of course, these are under different terms, so you may have to kind of play with ONET a little bit to get the right one. But let's say I wanted to talk to some faculty in that program area about information literacy, right? What am I going to tell them? How does it connect, right? Connecting the dots. So here is what Copilot put out for me. In the prompt that I just did for you live, it did not give the sources. Okay. But in this case, it tries to. It tried to give me in a very kind of strange, a little strange, I guess, citation format, but it is trying to give me the source of the information from ONET and then from ACRL. And then it is kind of giving the quote unquote references down at the bottom. And so that's kind of interesting how it did that. But yeah, it sort of makes those connections between those things pretty good. I'll probably do a pretty heavy edit on that one just to clean it up a little bit. And then ChatGPT, with the training and memories disabled, okay, basically gave a pretty good little paragraph as well. So either tool that you're using is going to, I think Copilot is a little bit more clunky, okay? It just feels that way to me. I have no idea. That's just me, right? But I think it does the job. Okay, so these two tools would be some possible tools to use. All right, so here we go. Now I'm gonna have you try it. So if your institution is using Copilot, you can go up to your apps, and basically it'll be listed in your Microsoft 365 apps, right? If you're a case DCS, you're some institution that has kind of your waffle and getting all your 365 apps out. It'll be, if you don't see it right away, you can just do a see all, and it'll be right there. If you are using something else and you want to just kind of try out the sort of free version of Chat GPT and go into your settings and set your data security kind of settings to where it's not training the tool, you can go in there and do that as well if you want to play with this for a second. But I'm going to give you just a minute to kind of throw something in. Let me go back actually and give you the prompt language here. And then you guys can let me pick one that, oh, let me do this one. So I'm going to go down into chat if I can get to chat. Oh, I can't. I don't know if I can get to chat. Hang on. How in Zoom do I get back to? Oh, here it is. Okay. And I'm going to send to everybody. So here's the prompt in chat that you can kind of tweak for yourself, right? Pull in those websites. The ACRL framework should be fine. But ONET, you'll probably have to wait. Did I cut that off? Oh, yep. Hang on, let me get you the link for that. Okay. Add that to the bottom of your prompt there in either Copilot or ChatGPT or whatever tool you'd like to use. If you'd like to try something else that you've got in your back pocket, go for it, and then you can let us know how it goes. And like I said, I am a complete, and I mean complete newbie at really going in and diving into any of these tools. I did briefly try to sort of use something in Blackboard Anthology, which, by the way, has a built-in AI feature, lots of built-in AI features. But it didn't really work for this task. It works for a lot of other things like creating rubrics, outlining your course, that kind of thing. But it really didn't work for what I was trying to do with this. So I just kind of didn't go there. And so try it out for a second and then tell me how it goes for you. And I will share all of my example prompts with you if you want to pull them and what and show you kind of what came out in case you want to use that text. Sometimes it sounds better than other times, and it's not. And what I found was, like, of course, as Brooke pointed out earlier in her session, the no, who did? I can't remember. Somebody, sorry. But the language is not going to be it's not going to repeat the same language necessarily. So it does kind of look like a new paragraph each time. So could be good, could be bad. You might spend a little bit of time trying to edit, but hopefully it'll save time with overall. So I'll give you about another minute to play with this, and let's see. Trying to watch my chat here to see if anybody comes in and okay. In the interest of time, if does anybody have any question? What happened when you went in there and you tried this out? What did you find? Did anybody try any either of those tools? Still probably playing around. So first of all, was anyone able to find I guess I should talk about, was anyone able to find their institution policy? And would you like to, either in chat or unmuting, give us an idea of what your policy was? Maybe we should start there about using any particular tools to do this. I did try to find Berea's policy, Amanda, and it was mainly dealing with student plagiarism, things like that. I could not. Oh, is it still running? Okay. Which I thought was interesting, but it makes sense if you have mostly the sort of hands-on in-person stuff going on. So the second question would be, given the tools that you're allowed to use, um, what came out when you tried to sort of go with a prompt, let's say, and can you guys think of any other uses any other ways that we might use this sort of putting on it together with our framework or with a group of standards to communicate the importance of information literacy, whatever context? Can you think of other scenarios where this might be useful? Okay, so Julie says it did good job of comparing the two. Okay. And I thought as I was kind of going through this, I was like, well, do I really want it to use a lot of the framework language? Um, yeah, I did have to tell it to, like in the prompt, like, hey, you're trying to explain this, you're trying to explain the connection. And okay, so Linda says that EKU, they're saying Google Gemini is okay. Did you try it in Gemini, Linda?
Not yet.
Okay, okay. Let us know how it goes. um, yeah, so I will provide my example prompts if you want to use that format or whatever. I found that keeping the actual prompt short as well was helpful. Go ahead and put the URL in of the page that you want it to look at, and make sure you tell it to look at worker requirements on ONET, because that's the section, that's the header in the web page where you have those soft skills. Okay, so we've got um by integrating the ACRL framework into your curriculum, you help students develop critical thinking, understand the ethical use of information, become lifelong learners who can adapt to evolving technologies. Would you like a visual handout or slide comparing these frameworks for use in the faculty workshop or class session? Yeah, so I mean, these faculty, they're trying to explain this to their students too, right? So you're also giving the faculty a tool to explain how what they do is connected. Like when they were first starting to do these essential skills, and faculty were panicking who were working on it and were coming to me like, oh my gosh, I was like, listen, you're already doing this. What are you doing that is doing this? Okay, well, I'm doing this assignment. I'm like, okay, see how you're doing this? You're having the students this and this and this. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about the language. So yeah, great. That's a great example. And I know we've just got one more minute. Does anybody have any specific questions? There's my contact info. You can play around and see what happens and send me messages. I'd love to see. And I feel like I might be like I I might want to try Gemini, but I don't know if I can, given the rules there. So let's see what we got. Katrina put one in. Let's see. Oh, okay. Shows how each standard relates to their field. Okay. So in this case, you've got sort of a broader view of like a field. Okay. That's great. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on this? I know we're pretty much out of time, but if anybody has suggestions or concerns, or and you don't have to use AI for this, by the way. Notice you can be the human and combine these two things still with language wise, especially if you're a wordsmith. You're kind of in there doing the thing. Yes. Orientations. Yes. Talking points. Mm-hmm.
I think it might be helpful to explain in a coherent manner uh, why they have to do research in a particular
Exactly.
class, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. You get that kind of resentment, like,
Mhm.
what is this about? And you're like,
Yeah.
well, actually, your employer will want you to know how to make decisions based on information that you find. So this is just you practicing that. How about
Yeah.
that? You're practicing this sort of in a, you know, a make believe or pretend a scenario, let's say.
Well, it's
Yeah.
2:46.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Esther.
Mhm.
Um, I think that's the end of this session. We are back at 3 o'clock and we'll see you then. Thank you.